Hey, Peter.
Hey everyone. Hey Jeremy. Good to see you.
It's really great to see you as well. Yeah.
Yeah, another week and it's summer. It's June. It's crazy how fast time goes.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's been summer here for a month at least in the south
I
of
know
France.
here in Budapest it comes and goes. Like we had
Yeah.
huge rains last week. Actually, that was one that was interrupting the conference that I was participating in. I can talk about it. But
Mm.
before we jump into that, hello to all of our viewers. A special hello to all of the new ones. That this is the first one. I think what we didn't do before, and we should start doing it, just have a short intro of what the hell is this. So, Jeremy and I, we are both engineering leaders. I would say we have some experience working together also, and the idea of this podcast, which is encapsulated by the name, is just to look back of all the content that we produced last week. We both are writing about engineering leadership or engineering management topics, ask questions from each other about the things we wrote, and then cover some of the news or happenings or whatever is on our mind from the last week. So welcome.
Yeah, really great to have you. It's funny to hear that some people do listen to this.
Yeah,
We're
yeah. I
partly
mean,
doing this just for
we can
ourselves,
tell
right?
probably. Yeah, exactly. Like how this started is that we had a running call to just chat and talk about stuff, and we figured that we had some really good discussions sometimes. Like I remember we're talking about topics that showed a different angle or added a lot to what I was thinking, and we were thinking, well, this could be good content for others to watch. So similarly to our newsletters and blogs, we are sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get a lot out of it, so
Yeah, same,
it's really good.
same.
Um, Clearly, the timing of this is not the best for most people, so it's just really great that we're doing it. We do it live so that we don't have to do any editing,
Yeah,
and we just try and publish it as quick as possible afterwards. But it is really a podcast. I think that's yeah.
yeah,
But the live nature of it will hopefully come through in the podcast
yeah,
because most of
yeah,
this is not rehearsed.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. All right, let's jump into it.
let's go for
So
it.
last week, you wrote about how to innovate, which is
Mm,
a really good question because, I mean, I guess the companies we worked at, I probably it's not an over generalization if we say a big part of them were about the innovation and not about protecting a
mm,
monopoly or some already achieved status. So innovation was key in all of our previous companies or most of them. So yeah, maybe you can tell me a few words about why you thought it's this is a topic that's timely now, and what are your thoughts about it?
mm. Um, well, so as I wrote at the beginning, actually, I have a part two. In fact,
I
I had originally started writing this, and I was going for actually the kind of ending with what is going to be part two this week, introducing more of a framework for this. But um, I think I felt like I was writing a lot of long newsletter posts, and I wanted to do something shorter, so I broke it up into two parts. And I think the main thesis of this article is that innovation is definitely more of a process of rapid experimentation and iteration rather than um, these genius moments of amazing ideas. And I tried to kind of use an analogy of climbing mountains as a
yeah.
mountains are or the peaks or the hills around you are the kind of represent problems, and then it's the algorithm to find the best path or the way to get or find a path, I think, up to the top. So that
Mm.
was the idea, and the idea was just really so that was, and I think it's um timely because it's timeless in a way, like um I think everyone struggles with it, and um, there's this, I think, a fallacy that um, we all need to be something like a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or whoever is on the current latest most, I mean, popular kind of inventor or whatever.
Mm.
When the reality is that I think you dig into all of those stories, that, and I shared one of Dyson with his vacuum cleaner, that it's really actually about lots of experiments and ideas. And I don't think Steve Jobs invented anything really, but did figure out how to create, something interesting and work with other people to do that, right? So
Yeah.
um, that's why I think it's timely. It's a reminder. If you're a leader, focus on making the process
Mm.
produce like that's what I would argue, right?
Yeah, that's I like this move away from idea to process, because I often, this stereotypical, I don't know, wannabe entrepreneur or startupper who I have this genius idea for this next social network, or I have this very good idea for this or that or that. I just I just don't have the team. I don't have anything. Or even worse, when somebody says, I don't know, the next Facebook comes out, or AI comes out, or whatever product comes out, and they say that, oh, I had this idea 5 years ago. I just didn't become successful, or didn't have a team, or whatever. And often, like, there is this saying that success is 1% idea and 99% sweat, or I don't know, with whatever other proportion. I would say even luck has a big proportion in it that people don't like to give credit to,
Mm,
because it's something we cannot control.
yeah,
Uh,
timing. Yeah.
Timing, yeah, well, all the uncontrollable factors that
Well,
just work out or not. But
I think just say on this though. I think execution. You can have 10 people with the same idea, but
yeah,
execution of the one who wins is usually the one who executed best on the idea. And for me, part of that secret of execution is working small, experimentation, and so on.
yeah, I love that. I really like that. I would even go a step further. Like, you see that innovation comes from good processes rather than genius.
Mm,
And I would say that in order to have good processes that are successfully being run, you need a good culture. You need a healthy
mm.
culture. What do you think about the aspect of culture?
So the way I think about culture is how we do things around here. And I think I wrote an article about it, but essentially, um, if you think about uh, culture is like a shadow, it's like your shadow. And um, what that means is culture is just reflecting the actions that you do. So if you say that we have a very friendly culture here, it means that how people greet each other inside the company and how they help each other is just kind of like very helpful. And
Mm.
so the culture is just a reflection of how you do things in an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And and so um so I agree with what you're saying in the sense that um culture is then your process and so on, and then and depending on how, like, if you're very bureaucratic, you're probably not likely to like invent stuff. In fact, you probably have people who are inventing stuff right now and the bureaucracy kills it. So
Actually,
um
yeah. Do
yeah.
you think can unhealthy organizations? You can get into the
Mm.
definition of that, but can they innovate even, or it's just much easier to innovate in a healthier organization?
I think you said that luck happens, and I think stuff happens still that kind of, but I think it's incredibly difficult for an organization that has low psychological safety and trust and
Mm,
highly bureaucratic, where people can't take risks. I think
mm,
it's very, very hard for them to innovate. And in fact, I think what those cultures produce is probably people who leave, and maybe the fact that they're toxic or a not so great place, or maybe just very everything is designed to keep things the way they are. People learn from that environment. They go out and they leave and they disrupt it. I don't know, like, yeah.
yeah, maybe that's that. I really like that what you said, that everything is fine as they are, as it is.
Mm,
Maybe it's just maybe this is wrong, but maybe this kind of culture where it's more bureaucratic, where it's more against innovation, maybe this is more appropriate for those stages of a company when they are protecting a monopoly, or they have a big market share that they don't want to lose.
Yeah. I mean, Clayton Christensen in I'm losing the title of the book, but it's about innovation and
We'll put it in the show notes.
yeah. But his whole hypothesis is that those big organizations can't innovate because essentially you've cornered the market in a particular thing, and the thing that comes as a disruptive vector is always coming from a totally different angle. In a way, it's like it's cheaper, it serves it. So the company that's winning in the that's won in a particular level of innovation, I think you could argue this about Google and search right now. And maybe that's, but I think you could apply this same logic to Google and search, but just that the vector of disruption is a different technology. And the problem is that in order to pursue that, you need to kill your cash cow, and your shareholders won't let you do that. And you're just more and more hyper focused on serving your cash cow, which in Google's case is advertising. And then that vector comes from a different angle, and you're just not equipped. I mean, I think like a ton of innovations around, he has some examples where I think IBM, there's different companies that have invented the technology. I like Kodak is a good example, because Kodak invented digital camera, but it didn't make sense for them to kill the existing cash cow. And so he has a bunch of different examples in the book, and basically saying like they actually invented it, but they couldn't disrupt themselves with it, and someone else came along and did it, right?
Which is actually a tragedy, because what it ends up being is that they became obsolete and that. But maybe survivorship bias. Maybe there are a lot of good innovations that are being killed off in monopolies, and because of these monopolies, there is this conspiracy theory about oil companies killing off alternate fuel solutions because it would this. I guess there's an interesting example. Do you think it could be applied to Facebook and the whole rebranding to Meta and moving to metaverse? Like they ruled the social network market. That's their cash cow, and still they made a huge bet on this weird thing.
They made two big bets. When people were obsessed about the rebrand to Meta, they were only talking about VR, but financially the other big bet was AI. And they were saying, well, AI is also going to be a key part of this future thing. And I mean, you look at what they're doing now, and this is really interesting disruption. They're just throwing out like amazing models like Llama, open source. And that is disrupting everyone else, because like now you're forcing the market to, because they don't need that, right? They have these other things that they're putting. It's a really interesting strategy, and I think it is a disruptive. Now, the reason I'm bullish about Meta, because like him or hate him or loathe him, maybe Mark Zuckerberg he's a founder. He's the founder. He still has controlling share. He is not fully at the whim. He doesn't have to operate fully at the whim of the stock market like Google and Microsoft. And I think he has a vision of the future. He knows where he wants the company to go, and he's able to take big bets. He's financially able to do it. They've built up a huge stockpile of cash, and so I'm bullish about them, and I mean, I'm a fan of VR, and I think we'll all be kind of like, this experience will be in VR one day.
You saw the demo. I don't remember if it was Meta or
it's
Apple.
Meta. The Kodak. It's I think it's called the Kodak avatars. Essentially, the photorealistic avatars.
But they demoed it with an interview with a podcaster. Anyway, I guess my example was that maybe this whole movement from Facebook is to go against this trend to prevent them from becoming the next Kodak, and
it is absolutely
awesome.
And like, this is really interesting. You compare that to Google, and Google are trying to just ship an AI on top of their search because they're getting like, I don't know, like I search with Perplexity and ChatGPT more than I do with Google. I mean, I've already de-Googled, and so if I'm using
Oh,
a
I have
search
a
engine,
lot to say about that. Yeah, go
yeah, I mean,
on.
I'm using Kagi as my search engine, and when it comes to search, it's fantastic. But um, I'm actually more and more getting quick answers that I just really need
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Perplexity and
yeah,
from like just literally asking ChatGPT.
yeah.
Like what it's way faster for me to ask ChatGPT what temperature should what internal temperature of sausages on a barbecue.
Mhm. Yeah, I have very first-hand experiences about that, and a lot of content that I included also in my newsletter, a part of it
Mhm.
about ethical internet consumption and the whole Google. Let's shelve this. Put a pin on this because I want to
And we
get
should
back
definitely
into
go
this.
back to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
But
love this
my
topic,
main
and
point about Google is that their culture is not allowing them to innovate. Um, they had a really rough time trying to launch Gemini, where like the
yes,
famous examples of
yes,
shipping. Their culture is imprinted over all of their innovation, so they their AI is hallucinating in ridiculous ways because of the politically correct way that they've tried to have the AI do things. Um, and now they have a lot of issues with the way they've shipped the AI search product that they have,
yeah. A lot
the
of funny
results. It's
issues to be honest. Like in
brilliant.
order to have a healthy diet, you need one or two pebbles, rocks for in
Yeah.
a well balanced daily diet because they are training on Reddit forums, and Reddit is full of humor and snark and trolling, and it's just such a funny event in 2024 to see that pop up in certain, like, use some, I don't know, 1/3 Elmer's glue in a pizza so the cheese doesn't slide away.
I'm wondering. I'm wondering whether there's like some Easter egg type stuff we can put in our newsletter and our stuff to
Yeah,
like
yeah, that would be
pollute
so
the AI,
cool.
and then
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there is this, I don't know, the 2024 Luddites who or Luddites, I don't know what's the good, whatever.
I think I say
Uh,
Luddite, but
Luddites.
I most of my pronunciation came from reading,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah,
grew up in like non-English speaking a lot of the
yeah.
time, so I don't know.
Never mind the machine destroyers of 2024. What I see more and more often, people. I'm browsing a Reddit thread from before because I'm researching some problems, and I see some of the comments saying that this comment is replaced because I don't agree with Reddit's strategy of how they are selling their content to for AI engines to train on, and then like a paragraph of bullshit, like really poisoning the large language models. It's almost like a new attack vector
Mm,
against AIs. It's really interesting to
I'm
see
sure
it
they'll find a
unfold.
way to
Oh
filter.
yeah, me too. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I think because I think like that's less sophisticated, but yeah, over time it's a cat and mouse game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Also, there's not enough of those people to really.
Oh yeah. Plus, the on the other side of the table there is AI who can tell the sentiment of a
Mm,
comment. It can tell if it's relevant or not to the
yeah.
discussion. Like it's really just it's more of a demonstrative action than
Mm,
anything.
yeah.
Cool. I have one more question about innovation and culture and everything. What do you think about the role of Slack to
Mhm.
help encourage innovation and allow it?
Yeah, so I mean, both of us are fans of the book
Yeah.
Slack by oh, my brain just blanked again. It's Monday
Uh,
morning.
yeah.
But
Maybe it's not the best time to record
no,
this.
fantastic book. Really, really. I mean, it actually was a game changer for me.
I will put it in the
So
show notes. Yeah.
I think, and basically the concept is of not packing your time overly,
Hmm.
or not over optimizing, so that there's space and gaps for, and this is the argument of both the book Slack and I mean that innovation can happen. So I think that it's a bit nuanced. I think so. First of all, if you're setting out at the very beginning of something or project or whatever, I think you have to intentionally um, use this kind of rapid iteration, small
Hmm.
experiments, low cost, iterate on each other, find what's the better solution, and those are experiments are different depending on what you're doing, or different things. But essentially, like, it could be interviewing users, building prototypes, et cetera, et cetera. It could be testing a business idea, and so on. So I think you need to, and I think in all of that, I think you need time to reflect. It's like that's why Slack is important. But
Hmm.
then if you go on the other spectrum, you're more in an established. We've got a product, and we're incrementally building stuff. So you have like a build process that's much more,
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
iterative, hopefully. I think in edges you need Slack. The best product ideas I've seen um, have come from hackathons,
Hmm.
engineers having some extra space, scratching an itch,
Hmm.
um, just like the in Dashlane, a really good example of that was the command line interface to
Yes.
Dashlane, which was written by an engineer pretty much in his spare time, and that's why Slack is important. And we need to increase. So I think it's both, but I don't. And even then, like, it's those mini small experiments within
Hmm.
that, right? So
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
it goes back to small, cheap experiments.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. I agree with that. And actually, Slack has another purpose. It allows you to discover how your product should pivot. Like
Mm,
if you think about a lot of successful products,
mm,
they didn't start out, or companies, they didn't start out as they were. There is this famous example of Flickr. I don't know,
mm,
that used to be like a game company or something like this, and then they
mm,
realized that, oh, there is something we could do. If they were keep on focused on
mm,
the KPIs and
mm,
pushing the next release, keeping all the deadlines, everything, if they didn't have Slack in their processes,
mm,
I don't know, but I assume, then I don't think they would have discovered
mm.
this opportunity to pivot to something bigger.
Exactly. Well, Slack, the company, the chat
Oh yeah,
app, they are actually the Slack chat app is a pivot, because that was a side thing that they built to help the team communicate, because they weren't happy with IRC and some of the others, and then it turned
yeah.
into the product that they ended up like pivoting to and shipping. So
You need Slack to have Slack. It's going to be really hard to follow this conversation.
I know, yeah, it was just yeah, and let's not talk about the product Slack either.
Yeah.
I could go down that.
Okay, forget it.
We
No,
should. I should write about chat at some point. That's a good blog post. Chat
yeah,
products, async.
and yeah, I thought you wanted to say historically and everything, because it was really interesting to see that when HipChat took over all the internal communication, and then how it suddenly disappeared when Slack came on, or like
Mm,
just get a deep dive of the reasons of that. That would be
yeah,
interesting also.
yeah.
Um, One more thing on this Slack is that I like data, so I try to find a way to prove this, that you need Slack in order to have innovation. And I found a study from 2018 where the authors were looking at college breaks and Kickstarter campaigns, and see if there is correlation. Basically, the theory is that if college students have more time, more slack in their lives, then they are more innovative and come up with more projects. And they could prove the theory. We will put the study in the show notes. What was interesting for me is that they also saw that there is an increase in not just the number of projects, but the increase was the biggest in the high quality, very high
Mm,
quality, and very low quality projects also. Like
mm,
I guess the moral of the story is that just because you have Slack, it's not going to guarantee you awesome products. There's going to be a lot of things that are just, not good. but that's the point of Slack and innovation and everything, is that you come up with a lot of ideas, try to validate them, and stick with the ones that are working.
But that's really interesting for me, because even the low quality projects, they're not a failure for me. Like, if you think about
Yeah,
people, they at least got something out there, tried it, maybe
exactly.
failed. I think even just like my newsletter, or this podcast and that we're doing, probably will, if we stick at it, we might look back and cringe a bit over time, because the practice of iterating and doing it is improving.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I already cringe a little bit at the first couple episodes, but we only figured out that we need to do an intro this week. So
Yeah, exactly. And what else are we forgetting? That's gonna be like, come on, what
so
were we thinking?
the we should be, and I mean, we should just be, I think you wrote about it, but we should be celebrating failure
Yeah,
and the
I
learning
wrote a
from
lot
it.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I guess that's a very good point. Like, even a low quality project that made it to Kickstarter and
Mm,
maybe had 3 backers, because even the,
mm,
I don't know, friends of the authors
mm,
didn't find it good enough to put $10 on it. Those have value because the authors of those had a lot of
mm,
unique experiences that they can build on, like how to
mm,
run a Kickstarter campaign, how to,
mm,
what does this whole innovation process looks like,
mm,
how do you make a product out of an idea. And even if they failed miserably out of this, they, as people and as a team,
mm.
they became smarter, and they grew thanks to this experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
um if you're, maybe there's an actionable thing, but like, trying to think for myself, what do I, well, I do know what I need to iterate on very fast. So it's like, but it's the thing that kind of I didn't ship a couple of weeks ago actually, but and I had to pivot. But I want to get my the outline of my book just out there so that I can get
Yes.
some feedback on it.
Yeah.
That's my kind of white whale of stuff that needs to have
Just
some
eat the frog to bring in
exactly.
another animal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of interesting series, and
Mm,
I'm gonna dig a bit deeper into that before I write about it. Just a
mm,
teaser that the reasons for procrastination. That's a very interesting area.
mm,
Like why are we afraid of doing the thing that we should be doing?
mm,
And oftentimes it's just fear of failure, fear of
mm,
I don't know, going into the unknown.
mm.
But I'm going to dig into this because it's, as a practicing procrastinator, I don't know the word. It's an interesting topic for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
cool.
Um,
Looking forward to the second part.
yeah, yeah. This week, I mean, I'm shouldn't be a surprise for folks what I'm proposing, but yeah, this week I'm really looking forward to getting the article out. It's also, by the way, just because I wrote most of it, I'm actually trying to get like a week ahead. So what I'm trying to do is ship uh, this one early because it's
mm,
mostly, I feel like it's close to being done, and start at least or get next week's out, because it's actually quite, when you're always having like a couple of buffer is actually safer. It feels better. So I'm trying to
yeah.
get to a buffer zone. We'll see if I make it or not, but yeah, because there's other
Yeah,
distractions out there.
I mean, good luck, and that's the all the professional advice is to have a lot of articles in
Mm,
the queue, scheduled everything. I never like that. Like
mm.
whenever I have something, I really like to just click on the publish button and start to get the feedback, because
Yeah,
saving it something for later, it always felt like hard for me.
yeah, yeah.
I guess
I
it's a
can I can
balance,
see both.
like
Yeah, I can
everything.
see both. I've got some holiday stuff coming up, so I need to buffer for that, or I need to write on holiday, which might be irritating for my family. So
Oh, well, the good thing for me, I'm not getting paid for this, so I'm just gonna take a break when I take a break, and that's it.
yeah.
We'll see.
Well, Peter, this week you've had I think you have one of the most comprehensive articles. I think this series is really
Oh yeah,
your
that's
series on getting hired as an engineering manager. I think it's kind of kicking into the meat and potatoes,
yeah.
because I think last week was really fantastic. This week was a pretty solid. I'll actually just share the,
Thank you.
getting hired as an engineering manager, and I think like this one, I'll have to say, like in in discussing kind of the content of it, I was like, oh, what am I going to ask Peter about? Because this is just super solid advice. Where to find roles. I found it really interesting. I will say, I'll make an observation as this one. So you basically said LinkedIn is where all the jobs are,
Yeah.
and I was like, is it really? And I think it is. Like, that's where I've seen, but and I haven't tried all of these other websites. I've actually Glassdoor jobs. Honestly, I did try that, and I just found it complete to zero levels. I didn't know that there's a couple of specific boards. I think you mentioned also last week, like remote kind of okay ones and whatever. But
There are a lot of these. I actually I'm really rooting for Otta because
mm,
they user experience as a job searcher. It looks really cool. Like the promise
mm,
of what service they are giving you. Is that they gonna find the jobs just right for you, and they will
mm,
provide all the information to like salary ranges. There is
mm,
for every company there is a little blurb. I'm pretty sure it's assisted by AI, but still
mm,
it just shows you what you're looking for when you're applying for a job. I mean, their tragedy is that they should have launched this, I don't know, 3-4 years earlier when there
yeah,
was so much demand for people.
mm,
I'm just rooting for them to survive this
yeah,
period and
yeah.
prove
I,
themselves.
exactly. I think most people can kind of just basically their application tracking system, or whatever it is, the applicant tracking system.
Mm,
It's pre-wired for LinkedIn.
mhm.
So like it's like a platform that's kind of having momentum, and it's easy just to put the button. And you know what? You're going to get loads of applicants for anything right now because
Yeah.
I think people are. I know we talk about, but the wartime atmosphere means that a lot of people have been laid off, so
Hmm.
they're all applying for jobs.
Hmm.
A lot of people in existing companies may not all be so happy with where they are, and so they're also, looking to get out of a particular situation often. And so it's just like they don't have to do much.
Hmm.
They don't have to make a lot of effort.
Yeah, but I guess one of the main points
Mm,
we are trying to make in this series, and this is the point where I need to credit my co-author Peter Bettis, who's an expert in recruiting. He's a
mm,
headhunter recruiter now, an independent one, helping tech companies find. He's focusing on C-level people now, but like I know him from 10 years ago
mm,
when I was leading Gawker in Budapest, and he at that time working for this Hungarian recruiting firm. They helped a lot finding good talent for us. So
mm,
he's my co-author. A lot of the tips in the articles are coming from him. And to get back to my point, one of the points we are making in the article is that a few unique targeted applications with a custom-made CV, a good cover letter sent to the right
mm,
person at the right time, that's going to make the difference in this climate. It's not about applying to 100 jobs every day, because
mm,
then you're just going to be part of the noise. You need to find you need to show how you're the solution for a company's problem, and being unique pays out now. Like there is a big crowd, so take bigger risks, like be more unique, do a cold reach out respectfully, but do a cold reach out to a person at the
mm,
company. uh, Find a novel approach in your,
mm,
especially in the cover letter. You can experiment as much as you want. Like it's basically free text, so you can tell a good story that can get the interest of whoever's reading it. It's There is just less of a risk in this climate now, because if there are just, I don't know, 3 applicants for a job and you're trying to take a risk and be unique,
mm,
that
mm,
can end up being like on the losing side. But if there are 300
mm.
applicants, this is your only chance. Like
Yeah.
yes, take risks.
Yeah, yeah. I think this it's really interesting because I think what your earlier advice of have your preferences
Hmm.
feeds into this, which is be very focused and targeted, and
Hmm.
then be smart. And like I love the fact that you included an example cover letter from
I mean,
previous.
it was partially your tip as a feedback
Yeah.
from the previous about the CV one, and I had this saved because another part of the article advice is to track
Mm,
your applications, and I still
mm,
had my 2021-22 application notes,
yeah.
so I could pull it out, and I think it's a good example. I mean, I again, the role of luck was big here, because this is about Relieve, a company that's doing, for those who don't know, you upload a bicycle ride or run to Strava,
Mm,
and what the original idea was that they plug into Strava, get the ride, and do a 3D video
mm.
visualization of it. It's really cool. Like
It
it's
is, yeah.
from a like a Google Earth like following and with data and everything. It's really cool. They started to be a social network. Like you could start following people's reliefs, and Strava panicked and kicked them off of their platform. Uh, that was, we can talk a lot about that also. But what I really liked is that they pivoted. They said, okay, instead of removing the social network
Mm,
features that they believed in is a key to their survival, they double down on it. They say, okay, to hell with Strava, we can import from Garmin or your
mm,
GPX files or whatever, and then we will double down on this, following each other and visualizing team rides and everything. Where I imagine there is a lot of value. So I really like this, and I love cycling, and I've been using their app since a long time. So when I saw they have a position, I could write a very honest and very enthusiastic cover letter. I mean,
mm.
that to me it felt very honest and enthusiastic, and probably for them also, because I immediately got a reply, and we scheduled a call, and I talked with the recruiter, and then I think with the CTO, probably. I don't remember who else was their VP of engineering, maybe. They're a
Yeah.
very small company. They figured they will need someone with more hands-on
Mm,
experience, and someone who had experience maybe in the either the video or
mm,
I don't know, something more closer industry. So I
mm,
didn't end up working for them, but the experience was very good. And my point in having an honest, enthusiastic, curious
mm.
email as a cover letter, it stands.
It's a great cover letter. So
I,
yeah,
I would call myself after
yeah.
this, like, because it showed me that oh, maybe I'm missing out on something if I
Mhm.
don't get to know this person. Because maybe
Yeah.
this is the feeling you need to build in the recruiter,
Mm,
this FOMO
mm,
that they should be afraid of missing out on you
mm.
if they don't call you.
Yeah, I had a similar experience a while back. There's a company that I had followed, and I was like, wow, they're just really special of how they operate and their culture and what they were trying to do. And
Mm,
I was like, so I was tracking them, and then they had a VP of engineering job come up. And interestingly, in the job application process, and they're not in France. They were somewhere else in Europe, and I was really nervous. I don't know, like when you see a perfect job and it feels like it's written for you, and then you, I found it really hard to put myself, to like do the application. So I think I left, like the other thing that other advice is you'd got to apply as soon as possible. So I left that one
yes,
a little
yes,
bit. Yeah, like stuff has moved so fast. Like you see
yes.
the opening, go for it. Um, but it's interesting because I saw that job go, and then I waited a bit, and then I did apply. Now, application process required doing a video,
Oh
and
yeah, wow, yeah.
I think actually that's a really for like I think it's actually a really good thing. Might sound like I just think it can really weed out a lot of people
Hmm.
who are doing like that the noise of the
Yeah,
application process.
yeah. I mean,
And
it helps those people who are following our advice of doing targeted applications. Yeah, actually, you're right.
exactly, yeah, exactly. So um I put myself really into that video, and I made it, and what was amazing was they got back to me directly, and we actually were just going into the process, and then they had someone who was interim, was internal, that they confirmed as the official thing. So, but there was a very gracious process of afterwards as well, and whatever. But I was like, I just thought I had no shot at that job. I
Hmm.
mean, and it's just interesting how the personalization aspect of it really works.
Hmm.
And yeah, but you can't do that for like 100 jobs. You can only do that for a few jobs,
Hmm.
So
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And there was an interesting aspect in how you started this story that I want to dig into a bit. Like you said, it was what I heard from you is that the job description was so fitting you that you got almost like intimidated
Yeah.
and afraid of. Can you explain what that feeling was and why do you think you felt that way?
I guess you could put words around it like imposter syndrome and all the
Mm.
rest. But even it's really funny when I think like I think I have some experience of doing this job and doing the managing and
Arguably, yeah.
a little bit, right? But um I think there's two things. The stakes of like really that seems too perfect, and you're you emotionally attach a lot to the
Yeah,
potential idea of the job of like maybe I could get it, what and then you want to like really put your best foot forward, and I think that process was really interesting because in that case the producing the video is like filming yourself is pretty scary.
yes.
um, and putting a pitch of yourself is pretty
Yeah, wow,
scary,
yeah.
right? And it's actually a lot more effort, I think. So there's number of things together, and I think like part of it is like, can I really say that I'm good at this? Can I
Mm,
really say that I have this experience, and so on? So and of course, I think I do. I think I
mm,
can say that, and I did
mm,
do it in the video. But
mm.
um, yeah,
Yeah. No, the reason why I found it interesting is like, to me, this feeling, what you described, is very close to the procrastination we talked about earlier.
mm,
And I think I have this idea that maybe this is because the the opportunity of this job, how well it matches you, it's still an uncertainty. And
mm, mm,
if you don't commit to any action, it remains in this uncertainty, which has its some positives. Like I can
yeah,
imagine feeling that job. I can imagine
mm,
being a book author. I can imagine this. And once you step into and start to take actions, it's not a dream anymore. It's depending on you.
yeah,
You will either make it or not. And that's super scary. And
easy
maybe
to
we
dream.
just exactly we just hold on to the dream because it feels nice.
Yeah,
Maybe that's behind it. Yeah.
I think. I mean, we talked. I'm definitely. I love to procrastinate. By the way, I have given up on trying to come up with the perfect to-do method and to-do
Yeah.
tool, which
Yeah.
I spent many years trying to perfect. I think I perfected the art of changing my to-do tool and my to-do method.
Yeah.
But definitely getting stuff done. I think, I think that's part of it. But I do think like I think there's another aspect of it, which is that kind of imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
and I know
Yeah.
that
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I do think like a lot of people are held back on that should be applying for jobs or doing jobs where I mean, you and I care deeply about this, but usually the most underrepresented people, like if I, who is typically a male who's pretty overly confident about myself, and probably sometimes too much
Middle-aged
overly
white
confident.
man syndrome.
Yeah, and
The world is ours.
I've done I've done that kind of job and all the rest, and I'm feeling in like some level of hesitancy in a situation like that.
Oh
How
yeah.
would other people feel who probably
Yeah.
actually yeah,
Yeah, and there
that's
are actual studies that women are less likely to apply for jobs
mm,
where they don't feel as qualified. In
mm,
fact, I see more and more often, or I used to see in job descriptions, that we encourage
mm,
everyone to apply, even if you don't feel qualified
mm,
for
mm,
everything. This is like a Christmas list for us. Like all
mm.
companies encouraging people to
Yeah,
fight this bias
and I
or
think
yeah.
that's the advice that you give in the article as well. Switching back to the article,
Yeah.
I love. So there's a couple of things that I really liked about this article. Or this, I mean, and I love your gift as well of the template for tracking, which we should talk about. But
Mm,
I I like that you advise to look at different angles, like trying to approach recruiters. I'm just looking for the bit that you have it.
mm,
Yeah, so you talk about apply for a position you're overqualified for, And I love how
Or
you talk.
underqualified. Yeah, I looked at
Yeah,
both angles
yeah,
actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and and I really like how you're in the advice here. You're talking about that networking aspect and so on. So it's
Yeah, this is all about being unique and really working on those positions or
mm,
companies where that are matching your preferences.
mm,
And this would have been ridiculous a few years ago, but now it can be a good strategy. Just go on TechCrunch,
mm,
look
mm,
at the investment news, and if it was actually a great tip from Peter, but is that if a company is getting a big investment, you can bet they're going to start recruiting very soon. So
yeah,
you can get ahead of the crowd and just reach out,
mm,
congratulate them for the investment, explain
mm,
why are they the best company for you,
mm,
like you're using their product, you work in different field, you're
mm,
enthusiastic about their purpose or whatever, and just ask for a chance to talk.
mhm,
I like the aspect of how can I help you.
mm,
It puts back this equality in this, because I think that looking for like a job is an equal relationship.
mm,
It's There are a lot of factors, especially now, that doesn't make it very equal, but I still like to
mm,
look at it that I'm not begging for a company to hire me so I can buy bread and butter at the end of the
mm,
month also, but we are looking for a match, and we
mm,
are interviewing each other. It's more like a like a relationship, and than just a one-sided application. So
mm,
I found this approach useful also, not saying that, I don't know, at the end of your reach out, you don't say that, oh, by the way, I'm between jobs now, or if you have
mm,
any openings, I would love to be considered. But you say that I have this kind of experience, I have this passion on this about this field, I'm using your product. How about we schedule a quick call to see if we can help each other out, or if there are fields where we could be, I could be useful. And
mm,
and this kind of reach out. I had a very interesting experience like 15 years ago when I was leading Gawker at Budapest, and a product manager reached out to me, like a cold call, I think on LinkedIn or through someone, that he just would like half an hour of my time to see what kind of problems we are struggling with. And I was like flattered, because everybody's, Wayne, and they like well, and people are interested about them. So yeah, we scheduled the discussion. It was in person by then. I showed them around in the office and explained what we were working on, everything. He had some good questions, some good ideas. And just at the very end of the discussion, he mentioned that, oh, by the way, I don't have anything now. So if you think there is anything where we could continue and I could help you, then let's continue the discussion. It was never like, in hindsight, I know that what he was doing, like he was
mm,
trying to apply for a non-existent position. But at the moment, I was carried away with the like I enjoyed the interest, and I enjoyed the inspiring talk with a professional who had some good questions and ideas. We The story would have been perfect if we would have ended up hiring him, but we really didn't have openings at that time. But it would
yeah,
have worked. Like the person was doing everything right,
yeah,
and this is our advice. Like look
mhm,
at this unconventional ways,
mm,
and try to connect with the companies. Be empathic. Know that they have a
mm,
lot of applicants and a lot of pressure to save money and fill jobs quickly,
mm.
and only open the very necessary jobs. Yeah, bring out the best you can from this situation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I wanted to. I also do think like, and I wanted to talk about your tracking of applications, but I think it's a good segue also to the next topic, which is
Yeah.
I think when you're looking, it's good to network at events. Like
Mm,
you went to Craft Con this
yeah.
week and so on. But um, I think that's something that's really worth investing in. Yeah, there's a number of different angles. I mean, not everyone is going to be a speaker or writing newsletters or whatever, but I mean, I think just showing up and
Yeah.
talking to people and the hallway track is a very valuable
Yeah.
other aspect of just knowing the lay of the land
Yeah.
wherever you are.
Yeah. But it's really not for everyone.
No, it's not for fun.
I
Yeah.
know myself because this is how those of you who don't know, Craft Conf is I think it's the biggest technology conference in Budapest. It's 2 days. I think like 5 or 6 stages at least, parallel tracks, all about the craft of software engineering or even engineering. Like I think there was something around hardware, but mostly software engineering. So I don't know how many attendants. Definitely more than 1,000 people in this beautiful location. That's the Hungarian Railway Museum, which if you're in Budapest, I encourage you to check out if you're into trains even a little bit, because it's amazing and it's beautiful. But they ran the whole place for 2 days, and they have very interesting talks about like a lot of leadership stuff, but also very practical, hands-on work sessions too. I think you still have a chance to get the early bird for the next year, and yeah, I recommend checking it out.
Mm,
My point is that I went into this conference with I guess the non-defined success criteria for me was something like, let's do some networking and let's get to know a lot of people. I didn't do any of that. I don't know. I overestimated my skills of code networking. I'm just not good in that. Like I didn't have it in me to just walk up to someone and say, "Hey, who are you and what are you doing?" or something like this. But that being said, the conference was amazing and
mm,
awesome, and I met a lot of pre-existing acquaintances and friends. So that was good to
mm,
meet in person with some folks. And but more importantly, there were some very good, very interesting talks,
mm,
and it's very intense. It's 2 days of like a fire hose of information. I took like,
mm,
I don't know, 20 pages of notes, and I still need to review them
mm,
and write about them to just to distill this knowledge. This is why it's good to write on paper and not just
mm,
take picture of slides. It
mm.
helps retaining information and processing it. But yeah, it was interesting. It was
W-
very, a fire hose of ideas
Yeah.
and information.
And I was curious, did you notice any kind of themes that are like,
Mm.
or emerging trends that are coming out from some of the talks and the ideas in the
Oh yeah,
industry?
sure. Yeah. Like there was one big topic about or trend about what's up in 2024, like what's happening today. The keynote from Gergely Orosz, the author of the Pragmatic Engineer newsletter, it was mostly about this, like 20. What is it in 2024 that's
Mm,
different? Why is it different? And actually, what I really liked is that he showed it that it's, if you step back a bit and zoom out a bit, actually we are getting back to the old normal. Like it's not what's happening now is an exception or a radical
mm,
event. It's what happened in the last 5, 10, 15 years, the age of zero interest rates.
mm,
That was the exception, and that was great because it allowed a lot of money flowing into this industry, which resulted in ridiculous stuff like NFTs, but also a lot of good inventions. Like in the beginning of this era was around the iPhone,
mm,
and if you think about AI also, which was another big topic, obviously, of the conference, AI, every aspect, the concepts of AI, neural networks, and everything, I learned about them at university
mm,
at the end of 90s. They were here in the 60s, 70s. Nothing is new in this. The only small detail is that it's not theory anymore, because we have the computing capacity to actually run neural networks that are not just a few bits of information, but can, you know, build up on the collective knowledge of the
mm.
internet. It's this quantitative difference turns into a qualitative difference quite
Yeah.
visibly. Yeah, yeah.
And another question about Craft Conf, and then I wanted to talk about your another bit of your article, your reflection. I would say it's a good topic.
Mm.
With any kind of standout highlight talks that you really like, or like that speaker was great, or had a real light bulb moment of the talk or anything like that? That just think about like something that really stuck with you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot, and I really need to check my notes to pair the names with the topics
Mm,
and everything. That was an interesting one from Gregor Hope. He's author of the platform strategy book, and he had a lot of good advice. It's like this is the more practical spectrum of the conference about how to build platform teams, how to run platform teams. That was very interesting. That I grabbed this early release copy of his book, and I'm planning to do a book review of it in the coming weeks. Uh, I forgot the name of the presenter, but there was like almost like a punk rock talk that a guy explained how basically software engineering is dead in 5-10 years because of AI, and how it's radically different already now, but it's just like we are in the very beginning of the journey.
mm,
And the reason I say punk rock is because going to the main stage of a software developer conference and doing a 1 hour or 40-minute talk about how all of your jobs are going to radically change and most of you will just lose it. I think it's a really a very provocative thing to do. Very much likely to a punk rock concert. So
Amazing.
I
Okay.
was laughing out loud at some points. Like it was so entertaining,
Yeah.
and it was funny because the conference works with Slido and our audience questions and everything. That at the end of every talk they pick the most upvoted questions, and so in a way it shows the reaction of the audience. And what I saw was stages of grief, like the negotiation, the anger, the everything. That was just so funny. That
Yeah.
was really funny. Like
Okay.
people trying to say stuff like, but large language models are built on our code. If our code is so bad, how come they can be better? Or what's going to be trained, the new large language models, what's going to be trained on if everything is like some normal concerns, but the tone of it and this very defensive, very angry, that was just so
Mm,
entertaining to watch. I hope because everything is recorded. I'm just
mm.
not sure what will be published, but I hope this is going to be in the list of published talks because
Okay.
it
I was
was
going to
just
ask.
so funny to watch.
I'd love to see that
Yeah,
particularly.
yeah,
That.
and I mean the ticket is pretty expensive. I got in thanks to the sponsorship of a
Mm,
Hungarian tech magazine where I'm going to write about the conference. But I think the super early bird is like 600 euros, and then
wow.
around the day is like 1,000 euros if you get closer to the event. But they have some cheaper tickets for online participation
Mm,
only,
mm,
but that allows you to watch all the talks real time,
mm.
ask questions, and
Yeah. I'm not
really it's a
really.
good option.
I don't really recommend it because basically what happens
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
so you need to get your employer to pay, and employers should be paying for this kind of thing, I think. But if you try and get I mean, my own personal experience, oh yeah, I'll join a few talks, but then, and I'll be at my desk at work, and then, but nobody's rescheduled any meetings. And then, oh, this other thing happened in production or whatever, and,
yeah.
or there's some other interruption, and then you skip half of it. And then you always have like intention to watch some of the old talks after, but you don't, or you might watch one or two. It's
On
not the
double
same.
speed.
Double speed. And then also you miss out on the entire hallway track and just the experience. And there's moments, maybe you're not talking to other people, but you think about stuff in the moment at when it's at normal
Exactly.
speed.
Yeah.
um, so I can understand how conferences can do that to, and I can imagine it maybe helps them make more money. But yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and my advice is go and attend the thing, you know.
I agree. Like
Yeah.
like maybe select the one conference that makes a
Mm,
difference in your life,
mm,
and just do
yeah.
what you can to participate. And uh, just what you said. Like if you join online,
Mm,
you're most of the time you cannot be disciplined
mm,
enough. Like I tried this before with webinars and some online
mm,
meetups and events, and often it ended up like, okay, I have 1 hour now. I either spend on this thing sitting
mm,
in front of a computer, or I finish this
mm,
presentation that I need to work on or
mm,
document or whatever, and it's often is the latter. So
yeah.
yeah, and it's really fun, and like I learned about organizing conferences also.
Mm,
There was a huge rain that just suddenly popped up in the middle, and you see that part of the place is outside. Like they had these huge event tents for 4 of the stages, and the main stage was in a building, and all the lunches and everything were served in the main building. So
mm,
like half an hour before lunchtime, huge rain is coming in. And what I see, conference organizers coming with big crates of umbrellas. They
mm.
had it ready, so
Wow.
everyone could just pick up an umbrella and walk to the main stage.
That's
It's
what your expensive early bird ticket gets you
Yeah,
is it
and but these are not like gift umbrellas. Some of them were used at previous conferences
yeah,
because we
yeah.
were asked to leave them and
Use
not take it.
again.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure some people took it home, but
yeah.
yeah, if you think about it, like a conference ticket, €1,000. I don't know, let's say €500 per
Mm,
people if we count all the guest
mm,
tickets and everything. That's a lot of money. How much does an umbrella cost?
mm,
It's nothing compared to that,
mm,
and especially it's the 10th or conference, like
mm,
they have a lot from previous year
yeah.
probably. It's just the fact that they were thinking about such a small detail and risk
Mm,
that could ruin somebody's conference experience, and instead they
yeah.
fix it.
Well, that's a good organizers.
Yeah.
Um, what I was going to say is, as a leader, I think I would just, for folks who might be listening to this and you have someone in your team that asked to go to a conference, find a way to say, if the company can afford or there's training budget or whatever, try and find a way for the company to cover the cost. But what I do with people is I'll say, look, okay, at least I'll give you the day or the 2 days to go.
Hmm.
But the trade off that I want is I want you, if you go, to take
Yeah.
notes and share what you learned back to the rest of the
Yeah.
company. And I've asked various people to do like a debrief, and they actually literally talk through their highlights. And like we had like in like a guild type
Mm.
context of sharing what you learned for a conference, or having like a wiki page with all the notes and just sharing that with people. So that's always been my deal, is I'll give you
Yeah.
time, but you need to multiply the learning of what you had back into the organization. And I think that's always a fair deal, because the organization gets so much more out of it when that
I
happens.
agree.
It
Yeah.
can seed ideas and new technology into the company because that person did something. So I think it's super valuable.
Yeah, basically what the company does is pays someone to curate the content of the conference for the
Mm,
rest of the organization. So if
mm,
somebody comes back for a conference who was very enthusiastic about one
mm,
talk, you bet it's going to be valuable for the
mm,
rest also. And it's great
mm,
that somebody did this filtering for you.
exactly. So
Quick
yeah.
question, because I have some experience. I used to work in your team at Dashlane, and I remember I think I asked for I asked for a conference approval. How do you decide which conferences to approve and which events not to approve?
I always say yes. I mean, it's very rare that you have someone that's asking to go to 5 conferences in a year.
Yeah.
And I've never had that. And if I encounter that, um, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it, in the sense that maybe they're amazing, right? And then and each conference is just multiplying out, or maybe they're just a total slacker. I don't know. So I'll
Mm.
cross it when I come. But like,
Yeah.
people generally ask to go to one, sometimes two,
Mm.
and I always, for the second time, if they didn't do a write up and they didn't do it, I'll just say no. It's very
Yeah.
simple. I tell them in advance. I said, happy to support this. This is my requirement. You need to come back and have a write up and share something with the rest of the team.
Hmm.
If you don't do that, then next time I'm going to say no. But
Hmm.
if you do that and we all learn from it, I'm happy to support this. That's it.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
that's a good idea. That was my experience. Actually, you
Mhm.
did something that I'm stealing from you. You said that if you think this is a valuable way to spend your time, then go for it.
Yeah.
Which moves back the responsibility to me. I felt slightly
Yeah.
uncomfortable about it, like, oh my God, now I need to decide. But yes, of course, I need to decide. Like, I'm spending company money that's valuable.
Mhm,
I mean, no offense, but who are you to decide what's the
mhm,
best way to spend my time? Like,
mhm.
and this is what I'm intending to do since then.
People
you
are
come from it
adults.
an approval,
Yeah.
then yeah, if you, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Forgot that bit. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
how I
sorry to
do it.
put you on the
Yeah.
spotlight, but I really I remember that when my first gut reaction, to be honest, was like, well, thank you very much. But I really like that reply.
There's one topic I wanted to close out on.
Yeah.
There's so many wonderful things that we cover in the newsletters and everything
Mm.
else. But I think I started listening to this podcast that you talked about. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but
Yeah.
I did start listening to the beginning of this about the kind of the how do we survive the media apocalypse.
Yeah.
And I'd love it if you could share a little bit of your thoughts on
Okay.
this. And I know that we're probably going to come into land shortly, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess what stayed with me from this episode, and then I listened to the second one also this morning. So the memory is fresh. Is you know this advice that don't spend your time on TikTok and everything because it has a negative impact on your brain and how you like it shortens your attention span and everything. That's a very like I'm familiar with this aspect
Mm,
and try to moderate my this kind of consumption, but I never thought about the other end of it. Like if you're watching a piece of content, if you're consuming some content, you're sending a signal to the content producer that this is a content that's working. Please create more of this content because there is audience. And at the same time, because you have just a fixed amount of time. If you don't spend your time and more and more your money on content that you enjoy, that you think is valuable,
mm,
that you think is better for the, I don't know, for the future of society, then you're sending a signal that no, I don't need this content. This site should die. Uh, I'm not trying to put all the responsibility on individuals because I don't think that's the case, but there are some parallels here with ethical
mm,
food consumption, for example. Like if you're just skipping on beef, I don't know, just buying it once, if you would have bought it twice in a week, or
mm,
you're sending these small signals to the beef industry also that there is less demand for that. But also what I think can be more powerful is that you're sending some small signals in your small social cycle also. Is like if you go out to a restaurant with friends and you choose the vegan option, then that's sending a signal for them also. And the parallel is not super strong, but there is a parallel with internet consumption also.
mm.
And
Yeah.
this is the point where we should get back to what we put a pin on in the beginning of the talk about Perplexity AI and
Yeah.
ChatGPT and everything. So the tragedy in this stuff is that on one hand they are a superpower, like they are very
Mm,
useful, very
mm, mm,
efficient. Google was saying, let Google do the Googling for you, which I think it encapsulates well where they are going. But what's not visible at the other hand is that all these large language models were trained on small and big media
mhm,
websites of enthusiasts or
mm.
of hobbyists, of bloggers, of content
People's books.
producers, people's books, people's
Yeah.
forum threads and everything.
Mm,
All the voluntary and results of work of people
mm,
that we are just skipping now.
mm,
And it's scary. Like I had an experience this weekend. I wanted to cook this Chinese recipe,
mhm,
and there is a small Chinatown in Budapest. It's more of an industrial part because there are a lot of wholesale resellers, but there are lots of very good Chinese restaurants, very authentic, and a big Chinese supermarket with everything you can think of. And I needed this tian mian sauce, which is like a sweet fermented sauce. And I didn't find it, probably to my mistake. So what I did is I took the picture of 3 different brands and kinds of fermented bean sauces, and I told ChatGPT that these are the 3 options. Which one do you think is closest? And then I was a little bit chatting, like I'm planning to cook something with mushrooms. What do you think I should? Like it was a surprisingly, and I don't know, like my mind was blown how smooth the user experience was.
It works.
It just works, and it works
Yeah.
really well. Like the food came out delicious, and
Yeah.
and but then I was thinking, like, all these food blogs where somebody, I don't know, like a
Mm,
European foodie discovering Chinese cuisine, sharing their experiences. I don't know, even a local Chinese
mm,
person writing about grandma's recipes and everything. All these models were trained on this
mm,
unique and interesting and authoritative content, and those contents are going to die out if you don't do something, because there's going to be no motivation for people to produce. Because
mm,
you remember the AdWords age, like the promise was that create your blog, Google will send some traffic, you put advertisements on
mm,
it, so
mm.
you can monetize your hobby, and you can build up a small, I don't know, like a side gig, or even you can build up companies on this.
Yeah, that didn't work
I mean, it worked until it
for
didn't.
Google. No, but
Yeah.
it worked for Google, right?
Hey,
They
not
just
just for Google. Like
yeah.
they were like Gawker was built up
Mm,
on
mm,
partially on this model where it was more
mm,
direct sales, and then Google took it away. But yeah, the point is that it stopped working, and to be the devil's advocate, the reason why this experience is so smooth is because there's an
mm.
ocean of shit content out there. All
Yeah,
this SEO optimized shitty content.
yeah.
Like the podcast mentions the evolution of the recipe page. Like it used to be just the recipe on a page. Now it's about I don't know, an essay about why the author is finding this recipe good, how their grandma used to go, etc. Because apparently Google likes this kind of content more than just a list of ingredients and preparation.
Mm,
So yeah, Google managed to shittify the internet and now takes away the traffic, saying that okay, we solved this problem for you. Like they are showing Googling, like browsing the web. That was a very excitement
mm.
pastime. They show it as a chore that they take away from us and solve it for us.
But at times it is a chore,
Yeah, sure.
because they
Yeah.
made the search results. That's why I use Kagi, because Kagi already does. They actively penalize the heavy SEO optimized sites, or the sites that
Nice.
have something to sell, and so on. And then you can also apply like a lens of like, I want to see just academic stuff about this.
Okay.
And I find that it's just a way better search experience. Now, and Kagi are trying to experiment with AI and stuff. I think I find they're struggling a little bit on that one. Like I just find the search engine works, and I mean, and
I
then
mean,
I use
arguably in
I
2024, if you do any kind of product, if you don't have AI, you're
mm,
dead. Like
yeah
that's where the
it
money is.
it but Kagi. I think I'm it's all fuzzy and I don't follow it fully in detail, but they did. I think they tried to build their own LLM and it sucked. I think they're now switching more to using other LLMs out there.
Mm,
They're learning and experimenting, and I applaud it, because I think they'll find a way. The engine that works well, and this is the thing I wanted to say, Perplexity. What I like about Perplexity is it gives you the references to the articles
yeah.
that it kind of curates for you. And what I'd love to see in your cooking example is if the LLM can actually say, I got this from here, here, and here, and this book, because it can lead you to either ignore all of that, or you go, oh, that looks interesting. That person about writing about Chinese food or whatever, I'm going to follow them. And I hope that we can, my hope is that we can get there. Now, let's flip it a little bit. I'm writing
Hmm.
content. You're writing
Hmm.
content.
Yeah.
I'm not, I know that there's, maybe I'm feeding some algorithm that can use it later. Okay. But I'm benefiting from it. And so I'm still going to do it. Um,
Yeah, that's true. But I
I'm not
think
sure I would
our
gate.
case is unique.
Yeah, like at least for me, uh, I'm not going to gate my content in that way either, or like this, put in robots or text. I don't want like whatever to to crawl my site or whatever.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah,
But
that's
then let's move away from individual authors, although that's an interesting thought. But small media companies like local news is dead
mm,
because, well, arguably because of AI, but arguably because they don't have the unique
I
advantage of being the only available source of news locally, because they I don't know, in the US they compete with the New York Times, which is available everywhere.
Yes. So this was the really interesting thing at the beginning of the podcast was
Mm,
um, when you first had the original media, local papers were the only way that you could advertise to people living in a particular area.
yeah,
And then now that's gone and it's gone in several ways.
yeah,
And then it's about like New York Times and a few other big news platforms that are kind of surviving. But um, what's really interesting is that the death of that is birthing new ways. So there's like hyper local kind of sites that like literally like where I lived in Paris, there was the 19 and they literally focused on in-depth guides to the neighborhood that
oh,
we lived in. And that's been grown out of the US where that's actually become, and that's a total different business model, total different. But
yeah,
where I live, I want to see, I have a little profile of the guy whose shop I go to every week or
wow,
whatever. And so I think it's just it's part of the cycle, and those places are more on Instagram and on, I don't know, they have like
TikTok.
a little newsletter or whatever, right?
Yeah, but this website, like that's I'm very curious about their business model. Like, I imagine some hyper local advertising, like
Yeah, the actual business.
go to Abdul's butcher to get the best lamb,
Mm,
and also
it's
I
running
can
events.
imagine some.
You know, I want to
Yeah,
know. I want to like.
okay,
I'm doing like
uh-huh.
a tiny little event. That's a great way to reach your audience, get
But
featured
that's
in.
all just advertising,
Yeah.
and arguably the audience can be reached with Facebook and everything. But do you think, it's hard to tell, but could they bring some kind of subscription model saying that, okay, you
Mhm.
subscribe to this local publication, I don't know, you get 10% of discount
Mhm.
at our stores that we are recommending, and then you get all this local news and everything.
Yeah. Um,
Because I think this is the key. Like, this is what I'm feeling since Gawker, actually, that the future of media or online media is independent. Online media is in the hand of the readers, of the consumers. Like,
yeah.
if you don't need advertisement money, and if you're in Hungary, if you're free from the government, those are the two keys from to be independent from big corporations and political players. And the only way to do this, if you ask for money from your readers, from your users. And
Mhm.
so I guess what I was getting at is that yeah, this I think this could be a good way to survive this online media apocalypse.
Yeah, I think so. Subscription, it's working well for some people. I mean, there's always going to be some super big winners, like Gage is.
Yeah, yeah, but
You
good
know,
for him. Like,
yeah,
that's
I'm
it
applauding
just
him. I
proves
think
the
it's
model.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm hoping that like we can still have a place for like craft journalists
Hmm.
or a little small team that cover your little local area
Mm,
that have their own style and that relates to the people that live
yeah,
there, and gives me the info I need about what's going on in my community
yeah,
and amplifies a little bit of that and makes my community better. And it doesn't have to be a big show like it's going to be different. They're going to talk to me in a different way. They're going
yeah.
to interact with me. And I would pay for that a
Mm,
little bit.
a little bit. Yeah, yeah. No,
Would
I agree. I agree.
gladly support that. Or maybe it's event based. They can organize some kind of festival and make a bit of
Hmm.
profit. And
Hmm.
there's probably like there's some
Fundraiser.
business model
Yeah,
in all of this.
yeah.
It's just, I guess, going back to your point about ethical consumption, I think that is on all of us to do.
Hmm.
And part of that ethical consumption is to find out and support these people that are trying to do these little bit different things.
Hmm.
Um, and just like we had a lot of crafts people that worked on their own, and that we're losing a little bit with big companies and so on. I think I hope that we can move back to a world where there's that we, through the power of the platforms, actually, because they give you access to these people, we can actually have more of these kind of crafty local people providing a very hyper local service of some sort.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know what's in Hungary? We don't have this very local small websites. What you explained with the
Mm,
Disney. what we have is big closed Facebook groups
Mm.
for districts and
Or
areas, and
WhatsApp groups and stuff. Yeah, there's different
or
count.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's very much depending on the platform. And I'm gonna wrap this up, this topic. The second part of the podcast that I just listened this morning, the guest was Casey Newton from the Platformer,
Mm.
a publication that moved from Substack to Ghost, actually, which is interesting
Oh,
because I'm
interesting.
considering the other direction. And his reason was more about the the Nazi problem on Substack, that they are not standing up against hate speech as much as
Yeah.
they should. But I think this is more about control, like
Mm.
who controls the platform where you are.
Mm.
And when PJ Vogt, the MC of or the author of the search engine podcast that we're talking about, asked Casey, so what's the solution for this media apocalypse? He said the Fediverse,
Mm.
this concept of independent
Mm.
federated publications or social networks, or
Yeah.
the concept is a bit foggy for me.
Mhm.
But I really like that. Like that's something that has the
Mm.
independence from big tech companies. It
I think
gives you
it's
the
part of it.
control.
But this
And
is, oh, we can go on in this topic. It's interesting that Threads is trying
yeah,
is federating with the
yeah,
Fediverse. And by the way, what the cool thing about the Fediverse is that your server, you can decide who you want to federate with.
yeah.
And there are many servers who say, we don't want Threads to be federated with us.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
good, but that's the cool thing about it, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like the internet, kind of. It's like the internet version. It's a social. It's like the internet, like as if social media was built on the same protocols that the internet is built on, in a
Mhm.
way, and how servers talk to each other and
Yeah.
communicate. So I like it.
I love it actually. And what clicked for me is the analogy with email. Like
Mhm.
in the email system, it's unimaginable that on Gmail you can only send content or emails to
Mm,
another Gmail user, and you cannot send to an Outlook
mm, mm,
user or whatever else. But this is the world we live in social
mm,
media and online media. Like
mm,
I cannot comment. I don't even know what's the good terminology here, but I cannot
mm,
interact with any content that's not on the actual site
mm.
of the content. I cannot follow on the same interface someone from this website, someone from
Yeah.
that website.
But that's why I'm not on Substack, even though I know that I could have a probably easier and bigger audience on Substack
Yeah,
faster, and
yeah,
because of the way they promote you in a big ecosystem platform.
yeah,
And I'm gonna I can stick to my ethics on this one, and I'll go for the super slow growth that my
yeah.
newsletter is at the moment. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I think
yeah.
same, but it's a bit ongoing debate in my head. But the key is, at least for me, is to define success metrics very well.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying to move away from subscriber number as a success metric
Yeah.
and get a bit more abstract, like I don't know, stuff I learn,
Yeah.
reach, size
I'm not
of
looking at the
network.
numbers. Even I don't even look at my analytics. Um, I'm
I'm
really
looking
trying.
less at my analytics.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And because my metric is to, within the time box I have, to publish the best article every week that I can, um, in a global theme of going to, in a particular, I have like an idea of where it all wants to go, and that's it.
Yeah, but why? Like,
For me.
yeah, for okay,
No,
that's
no,
kind.
yeah,
No, because the five whys analysis
yeah.
that what why is it bringing you value to? Because there can be a lot of good answers for this, but why is it bringing you specifically, Jeremy, value to be able to publish the best article possible in the time box that you set week after week?
It makes me think. I learn. It's just a fantastic discipline. It brings my week a really good rhythm.
Mm-hmm,
And the bigger thing is I have a bigger. I'm taking small bites
mm-hmm,
at a bigger dream I have of like trying to write a book,
mm-hmm,
and ship a few other kind of like maybe like some mini courses for people and help them.
mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to help people. And clearly it's not going to damage having a brand and giving myself independent platform is like probably good for my career.
Yeah.
Definitely, and so I think it's the time invested is a lot of upside for me
Hmm.
personally, just individually, and I'm
Hmm.
hoping that by doing all of that, I can actually help other people. Like that's like
Yeah.
if it, if I improve, if I get, so
Thanks for putting it to words. I think it's important to be clear in these
mm,
goals, because otherwise, I see it on myself. I can get lost in looking at the statistics. I get
mm,
excited when a big newsletter picks up one of my articles, and I see
yeah,
the effect of it and everything. I think it's
mm,
human.
mm,
But on the other hand, I really need to do this exercise also to. I mean,
mm,
I did it a few times. Like I wrote about why I'm writing the
mm,
newsletter, but really spelling it out and
mm,
internalizing and taking action on these, I think it's important.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's one of the most rewarding things I do in a week, I'd say.
Hmm.
This
Okay.
and this show. I mean, we're talking a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Working
yeah.
with you, Peter.
No, I'm always looking forward to this Monday morning. I
Yeah,
mean, this brought up the quality level of a Monday morning.
definitely. Well, we should come into land, I think, on
Yeah,
this one.
yeah. I think our we are always scheduling for 1 hour, and I think 1.5 hours seems like something that we will have to settle with, because
Or go for themes. Yeah.
or go for
Uh,
teams. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, go shorter. But yeah.
Nice. Okay, this was fun.
Mm,
I think I covered everything that I noted. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Maybe
Cool.
next time. My my minis forum box arrived. That's been my other distraction. Next time we can talk about that. I will
Yes,
say
let's do
that
that.
it's up and running, but I am not in production yet.
Okay, because one of the things I didn't ask is how did you do the whole migration process and
Not there
decommission
yet.
of the old hardware and everything. So
Yeah,
maybe that's a good topic for next time. And then
yeah,
then I also gonna have probably some more distilled thoughts about some of the talks from Craft, because there were some good ones.
yeah. I'd love to see your article as well.
All right.
Mm,
Cool. Well, thanks,
brilliant.
Jeremy, and thanks everyone who was watching it. We'll have another live recording next Monday at 10:30 Central
Yeah.
European time. But you don't need to follow the live. You can just watch the recording.
And please, if you do listen, we should probably say this in the intro. Even if you listen for a few minutes, would love your feedback on all of this. How can we improve? How can we do
Yeah,
better? We're still throwing stuff out there and see
yeah.
what sticks.
That's interesting. I mean, I know this was a nice ending, and I'm ruining it now. But I think it's important to say that the feedback is important for us because of why we are doing this. We are doing this for learning. We
Mm,
don't want feedback to see what is the popular content and do
mm,
more of that. We want feedback to learn how these are landing and
mm.
what people think about it. There's probably going to be some feedback that we will respectfully ignore, or just keep on doing the opposite because we believe in it.
Yeah,
But yeah, feedback validates ideas, so that's why it's important for us.
definitely. Yeah. And because we have so few listeners, we really value every little bit of feedback that we get.
Yeah,
You,
yeah. I
as a
mean,
human, the one
if
human that's listening right now,
exactly, like if you want to have your voice heard, then now is the time, because once we break it, it's not gonna have a chance.
I'll probably keep going at this for longer, even if we don't make it, Peter. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, arguably we made it. Like I had fun, so.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, see you next week.
Yeah, over and out. Cheers,
Take care.
folks.